All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to look at something that completely upends what most of us have been taught. We're going to totally reframe Buddhism, not as this collection of emotional stories, folklore, or religious myths, but as a highly precise psychological exit protocol. Think of this as an analytical guide for students who are actively seeking structural mental clarity. We are about to decode the exact mechanics of human perception, all based on the groundbreaking work Beyond the Illusion.
So, here's our map for today. 1. The universal trap. 2. The historical reality. 3. The severed chain. 4. Lost in translation. 5. The mechanics of mind. And finally, 6. Reopening the gate. Let's get into it.
Starting right off with Section 1, the universal trap. Think about it for a second. Literally from birth until death, we are just exhausting our effort, right? We pursue wealth, we chase relationships, we want status, and yet empirical observation shows us that even with maximum luxury and 24/7 gratification, the mind stays restless. That baseline of dissatisfaction, it always returns. Why is that? Well, it's because we're trying to solve an internal, mechanical error using completely external materials. The outer world, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought, it's inherently neutral. The problem isn't out there, it's entirely in here.
So the absolutely crucial point to understand is that our mind actively constructs artificial value. It takes these neutral inputs, slaps a fake value on them, and then demands a finality that our psychological system is literally, structurally incapable of providing. This core operating illusion that drives all of our endless chasing is called Sakkaya Ditthi. It's the totally false belief that sense-based gratification is actually worthwhile and fillable. Breaking that exact belief, that is our entry point today.
Moving on to Section 2. The historical reality.
You see, the birth of Siddhartha wasn't just some random mythological event. It was a remarkably precise, calculated phenomenon. It required the perfect alignment of 5 fundamental conditions: time, continent, country, clan, and mother. This was what we call a functional arrival. The arrival of a being who could identify and explain the exact mechanisms that sustain our existence. And there's this incredibly stark contrast between the folklore we've been sold and the rigorous choice Siddhartha actually made. I mean, the popular narrative tells us he made this sneaky midnight escape while the guards were sleeping, right? But the actual textual record in the Tripitaka shows something completely different. He left officially. He walked openly out the main gate while his family wept. He made a highly informed, conscious exit from the absolute summit of human luxury simply because he saw the structural flaw in existence.
Correcting this historical departure from a secret escape to an open, official exit is a real game changer. It helps us begin correcting centuries of deep misunderstanding. Because just as the history of the man was clouded by all this tradition, the core of the real Dhamma was similarly misplaced over the centuries. It morphed from a rigorous technical science into, well, mere emotional storytelling.
Which brings us to Section 3, the severed chain. The realization of this path fundamentally depended on a living transmission, a spiritual friendship, known as Kalyanamitta. But here's the tragedy. Exactly 500 years after the Buddha passed, the direct lineage of Arahant monks completely disappeared from the human record. And these were the people with the actual experiential authority to guide listeners.
Once that living chain of spiritual friendship was severed, the Dhamma transitioned almost entirely into a book-based tradition. Without living guides to maintain the technical accuracy, the original rigorous analytical protocols were tragically replaced by duplicated literary versions. And these new, non-technical versions, they prioritized emotional comfort over the actual structural deconstruction of the mind. The technical manual was neglected, and the narrative trap was officially set.
Now, Section 4. Lost in translation.
The core issue here was the loss of a very specific, absolutely crucial tool called nirukti. This is the essential etymological key found within the 4 analytical insights. Without nirukti, the Dhamma is basically treated like standard literature, rather than the brilliant technical manual it actually is. Nirukti is the exact mechanism that transitions a seeker from just reading surface-level words directly into understanding the functional operation of their own mind. But when those spiritual friends disappeared, the nirukti key was totally lost with them.
And this is exactly how modern translations completely obscured the original technical instructions. Consider the universal truths, the Trilakshana. We are typically taught they mean impermanence, suffering, and no self. Now, while that's philosophically interesting, those watered-down translations lack all of the original ontological depth. But when you look at the restored Nirukti definitions, it's mind-blowing. Anicca actually means fundamentally insatiable. Dukkha means a heap of contamination, and anatta means worthless. These restored definitions give us the precise mechanics of exactly why our mental fabrication constantly fails us.
All right, let's unpack this in Section 5, the mechanics of mind.
So, the Tripitaka consists of 57 books. A really common error today is just trying to read them linearly, front to back, but the internal logic actually dictates a reverse protocol. By starting way back with the 15th book, the Pitakapadesa, we establish our table of contents. From there, we move to the Neti Prakaraniya, which is basically our theoretical engine. Reading it end to start provides a highly disciplined, technical mapping strategy for the mind. And right inside this theoretical engine is the absolute core teaching of the Buddha. It's a highly precise three-part analytical protocol used to evaluate every single sensory input you experience. Step 1 is asada. That's the temporary gratification or mental fabrication that pulls us in. Step 2 is adinawara, recognizing the inherent drawback or danger, seeing that the pleasure is fundamentally deceptive. And step 3 is nisarana, the natural relinquishment or escape that happens automatically once your mind genuinely sees that the drawback heavily outweighs the gratification. This protocol is literally the ultimate blueprint of your mind. Neutral sensory inputs are continuously taken in, and our 6 roots of thought generation actively assign them all this artificial value. But once we apply that Nerakuti's deconstruction filter we just talked about, we realize these fabrications are entirely insatiating, contaminating, and ultimately completely worthless to produce. When you truly see this happening in real time, disengagement isn't a struggle, it becomes totally automatic. Finally, Section 6, Reopening the Gate. To reach the first stage of enlightenment, stream entry, you must move through 4 functional requirements outlined in the Sottapatti Sutta. And listen, you cannot do this alone. It requires an external signal. You absolutely have to start with Kalyanamitta, a spiritual friend who actually holds the key. Then you must hear the true Dhamma. Only then can you move all this theory into analytical reflection and finally, verification within your own daily life. And the amazing thing is, this restoration isn't some modern invention or a trendy New Age spin. It is a genuine reawakening. The master key was last historically held in Sri Lanka by Malayadeva Mahathero around the 2nd century BCE, through a very specific past aspiration bridging over 2,000 years. That transmission catalyzed the reemergence of the Nirukti language through Waharaka Thero in 1950. And thankfully, it is preserved today for analytical thinkers like us.
This actually leads to a really critical realization about modern mindfulness, which, let's be honest, is often just rebranded for corporate stress relief these days. True wisdom is not just a byproduct of quiet meditation. As Siddhartha himself proved, by mastering the highest possible meditative absorptions, mere concentration has a hard ceiling. It provides temporary relief, sure, but analytical insight is what actually pierces through to liberation. You have to deconstruct the mechanics, not just sit there quietly existing within them.
As the author of this framework states so perfectly, I have shown you the structure and path. Now see it for yourself. The centuries of structural distortion have finally been corrected, and the original blueprint has been laid out before you. But here's the catch. This brilliant technical manual is completely useless if you don't actually pick it up and use it to audit your own operating system. So the historical gate is open once again. The original analytical tools are completely back in your hands. Now you really just have one choice to make. Are you satisfied just coping with the illusion day in and day out, or are you finally ready to break the mechanics that sustain it? The manual is yours to explore. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with us today.